So, Toby, I'm going to hand over to you. I think we
All
can
right.
start going through. We're looking forward to loads of tips and tricks and lots of stuff.
So yeah, I think for this, like I alluded to earlier, I really wanted to, when I was thinking of what am I going to share today, what am I going to talk about, I really wanted to focus this on the business executive and how do you use LinkedIn the way an executive would use LinkedIn to grow influence, presence, and all that good stuff. So it's quite a meaty presentation, but I really wanted to give you guys as much value as possible here, so we can really get into it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the value in executive thought leadership. The second thing is the foundations of being a thought leader. The third thing is building out your executive presence on LinkedIn. The fourth thing is integrated executive with brand and corp comms, and then we can go into the Q&A. So let's get into it. So the value of executive thought leadership. So I think this is one of the things where it's so valuable that people understand you as a leader and people understand you as a thought leader. So especially in B2B environments, executive branding is now considered a necessity. That comes from Steve Olensky and Kent Huffman from Forbes. So someone says, FYI, we cannot see a PowerPoint yet. Can you see the PowerPoint? Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there for you, Veronique, but hopefully that gets sorted out. So I'll continue then. So I think it's super important that we have a good understanding of what it looks like to build out that brand and build out what it means to be a thought leader. So first off, why do we bother? Why bother with thought leadership? So the first thing is there's 5 different things that you can achieve if you're seen as a thought leader. So the first thing is market consideration. So, and this is really talking about whoever you're selling to, people are going to consider you higher if you're seen as a thought leader, if you're seen as someone who's the very top of their game. They are someone that people want to follow. The market is going to consider you first as opposed to your competition. Now, the second thing is leaders embody your brand. So again, and we're going to come on to this in a minute, you're going to attract people to your brand, and you can, again, use that to build out your business. And particularly when it comes to leadership is all about, how do you influence? John Maxwell says leadership is influence, and you build out that influence from your brand online. The third thing is demand generation. So if you're selling something, you can actually influence the sales cycle much easier. So if you're selling, let's say you're selling consulting services, if you're seen as a thought leader, people are seeing you on the platform all the time. It makes it so much easier for you to engage in the sales process rather than someone that they've never heard before. And then number 4 is talent attraction. We're all in this kind of battle for talent. How do we get the best people to join us, to work with us? Again, if you're a thought leader, you can get the best talent available. And then employee engagement. So people stay engaged when they've got a leader that they can get inspired by and follow. If we look at someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, who owns VaynerMedia, I spend a lot of time working with VaynerMedia and their agencies, and one of the things that they say is they love the fact that Gary is so open and he's out there and he's always talking, he's always putting his brand out there, because A, it's inspiring, but B, it gives people the air cover to have those conversations. They say, oh yeah, my CEO's Gary. Oh yeah, I've heard of him before, so it gives your employees more engagement and more buy-in to whatever you're doing. So maintaining an active executive presence on social has a direct impact on the buyer's journey. So 56% of professionals stated that a business executive's presence on social media positively influences their purchase decision. And 66% of professionals said they would be more likely to recommend a company or brand if they followed that person on social media. So what works? create something substantive. So the top characteristics of thought leaders is they explore potential challenges or new opportunities. They look at things that might have been overlooked, and that includes the guidance on how to respond to issues raised. So we're really going to get into it now and go into like, how do we do this? So the three keys to building a compelling executive presence on LinkedIn. So the first one is find your white space. What is the thing that no one else does quite like you do? So it's the intersection of your expertise, your interests, and your community. So to give you an example of when I look at myself, my expertise is marketing and tech. My interests and passions are diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also leadership. So that's the stuff that I'm passionate about. And then the community I engage with are everyone who's kind of in the DEI space, also in tech and marketing. So it's that intersection between your expertise, what's the thing that you're really good at that people want to know about, what's the passion that you've got in your heart, and then how does that connect with the community? And then the second thing is have a perspective. So have a point of view. And this is particularly important when we're talking about macro issues, when we're talking about maybe something that's going on in the news. Don't be afraid to share your perspective and give a point of view around this is what I think, whether it's at an industry level, whether it's at a business level, whether it's talking about politics, whatever your niche is, have a perspective. And then the third thing is digital citizenship. So how are you participating and contributing to the communities that you're part of online? Are you sharing? Are you commenting? Are you active? Or are you passive? So let's dig into this a bit more. I really want you to really get some good understanding of what I mean by each of these different things. So the art of white space. So identifying white space. So you might be thinking, okay, Toby, you told me to identify my white space. What does that mean? Like, how do I actually go about doing that? So one of the things that I think is helpful is looking at the engagement index and then the number of articles. So what you're looking to do is see that top left that's engaging and uncommon. So these are the topics that are engaging, so they resonate well, and they're less common. So not everyone's talking about it. So this is a prime opportunity for content creation. Obviously, you're not always going to be in that space. So, potentially you could be in the common and engaging space. So these are topics that resonate well, and there's a lot of people talking about it. So I would say most of your content is probably going to be on that top right. But when you get into that sweet spot, it's that engaging and uncommon. It's the stuff that is going to resonate, but also there's not that many people talking about it. And again, I've used this word a few times, is introspection. So it's going to take a pen and paper to sit down and say, okay, what's my expertise? You write that down on one side. What's on the other side? What am I passionate about? And this is not something you can fake, because people see through fake very easily. They see through it very easily in person. They see through it very easily online. So if you're not passionate about something, don't talk about it. Don't pretend like you are passionate. Talk about your expertise, your passion, and then below that, think about the community that you really want to help and engage with, right? And there's going to be a group of people that you think, actually, that I'm going to add value to this group. And they're going to be your biggest cheerleaders, evangelists. They're going to be your followers. And you also want that community to potentially be your buyers as well. So if you're selling, you want to sell into that audience as well. So you want your followers to be people who could actively buy from you as well. So the places where you want to avoid are those places on the bottom. So it's this uncommon and not engaging, and then it's common and then less engaging as well. Those are the places that you want to avoid. So addressing the voice of the customer, this just gives you an example from the CEO of Delta Airlines. And he's really just talking about, talking from a customer-centric point of view. And I think getting into the habit of doing that, whether that's you're curating a post or you're creating a post, thinking about it from how can I really help this person and how can I offer value rather than how can I just post something. joining the conversation. So again, you don't always have to create content. Sometimes it's about seeing what other people in your field are talking about and then reposting and then adding a little comment on the top. So that's when we talk about having a perspective, right? So, or it could be just commenting on certain things. All of the different things that help to drive engagement show that you're actually a contributor and not just someone who's just passive. And then having a perspective as well. So having a perspective on future innovations. We're going to go into the different types of thought leaders that there are. So Richard Branson has a perspective around a number of different things. So whether that's climate change, whether that's sustainability, have a perspective on some of those macro thoughts that people are talking about. So this is the empathy map, and I think it's really good to have a good understanding of how to be empathetic to the people that you want to communicate with. So that's with how you think and feel, hear, what you say and do, and what you see as well. So you, from your perspective, think about what's their environment like. How do they see and observe the industry among their peers? And this is when you're looking at your community that you're building. Ask these type of questions. So ask the questions like, how do they behave? How do they act in public? How do they, and also what influences this person? What type of media that they pay attention to? If you can write these things down and you can have an answer to this, you're going to be so much better at actually engaging with people in a way that actually makes them feel something, rather than this is just a post, I'm just going to scroll through it. So there's different types of content creator. So let me read out this quote. So this is from John Thiel, the former vice president of Merrill Lynch. What surprised me the most about publishing on LinkedIn is that me being me is more popular than me being the head of Merrill Lynch Wealth Management. And why I think that's an important quote is authenticity. Sometimes people go into social media and then they feel like they need to become something other than they're not. You don't. The best thing to do is be your authentic self, but really do the homework, right? There's a difference between being your authentic self who's not prepared, who hasn't done the homework, who hasn't done the thinking, who hasn't done all that stuff. And then there's the authentic self that has done the thinking about, okay, this is who I am, this is my expertise, this is my passion, and this is the community that I want to connect with. So there's 4 different types of, I would say, thought leaders. So you get the ones that are industry focused. So the people who are industry focused, they will give you a perspective on the trends, what's happening in the industry commentary. So let's say your industry is healthcare. There's the thought leaders that are like, they'll give you the future trends on healthcare. What's trending? What's happening after COVID-19? What's going to be the next big thing that we're talking about? So that type of thought leader is visionary. And you might say, oh, actually, I think that's the type of person that I would want to be. I think I'd want to be a visionary industry focused person. And really, because I'm always reading the latest news, I'm up to date with things. I have a perspective around the industry. And then you might say, yep, that's going to be me. I'm the industry focused person. The second one is the brand focused person. So that one is really focused on stuff like culture, philanthropy, some of the tech trends and innovations, and really focused on more about the why. And you would say that they're an evangelist. So let's say, you work for, let's pick LinkedIn. You work for LinkedIn and you say, you would be talking a lot about, this is the culture, this is the type of values that people should see in business. This is how business can build and grow. And this is what good business looks like, as opposed to just business that just makes money and makes money. So you would be almost seen as an evangelist, talking about the why, talking about the purpose and all those different types of things. The third person is the product focus. So, and again, these type of people can be super helpful on LinkedIn. There's people that I follow on LinkedIn that they're more product focused. So they'll give you, if you want to understand something, they'll give you the tips and tricks, the expert knowledge, the FAQs, the demonstration. So there'll be the guide. And, there's some people who I follow. There's a person I follow on LinkedIn who's very product focused around Excel. Now, after following her, I've learned so much about Microsoft Excel that I didn't even know that you could do, because they've got deep expertise around a particular product. And I've been following her, and then I've understood, okay, you can do this with Excel. You can do, and they bring out all these different posts. So, that you might say, I've got a deep expertise when it comes to a product. That's me. That's the type of person I want to be. And then the last one is the people-focused people. And, I follow a bunch of people who are like this on LinkedIn. They'll give you career advice, leadership advice, talent advice, personal growth, almost that life coach kind of advice, and like a mentor type thing. And again, these people can be super helpful as well, because you're thinking about, okay, like what's my next move? And they've got a wealth of knowledge and wisdom into how to progress in your career. If you might be that person who's like, you know what, I've been through a lot. I've got a lot to share when it comes to career, leadership. That would be me. I'm more people focused. I'm going to be seen as a mentor, and I've got a ton of value to give there. So I've broken this out into 4. And what I want to say is there's not one that's better or worse than others. It's just different. It's just really about honing into what is my expertise and how can I bring the unique value that I have out to my audience and be focused with it. And that's the point. You don't want to be doing this type of post on a Monday, and then this type of post on a Wednesday, and this type of post the next week and the next month. You want to be focused. Like, this is the type of person that I am. So I know that if I follow you, I'm going to get this type of content, and this is the type of value. So this is really about being focused, understanding yourself, and then building out your brand that way. So this just gives you some different examples. So Sally Krawcheck, she's the visionary type of person. So if you go on LinkedIn afterwards, and feel free to check these people out. She's built up 2.8 million followers, and she's done that by being a visionary. So she addresses topics like the gender wealth gap, the gender pay gap, investment strategies, and different things like that. So if you're following her, that's the type of content that you're going to get. And then we've got Laisha Ward. She's more of the evangelist type. So she focuses her conversations on women, people of color, underrepresented communities, and she's building out timely conversations on LinkedIn that address certain topics. So like how Target is recommitting to diversity and inclusion, focusing on safe shopping environments, being transparent about what Target is doing. So she's more the evangelist type, and again, more focused on purpose, more focused on some of those things that are her passions, and because of that, they're also passions of other people as well. And then you've got more of the guide. So Annie Jean Baptiste, she's more of the guide. She's got deep knowledge of. She's the head of product and inclusion and equity at Google. So she's got a deep knowledge of that, and she shares that knowledge with people. Again, if you're someone who has a deep knowledge on a product, maybe that's the thing that you want to double down on as well. And then Ray Dalio, again, if you know about Ray Dalio, he's more of the mentor type. So he's got a wealth of wisdom. He's seen economic changes and lots of stuff around business. And, he'll be talking about different things like principal perspectives, and talking about how to build wealth, how to grow, and different things about the macro economy. So again, if you're someone who you feel like you've got a lot of wisdom to share, you can build out that mentor almost persona on LinkedIn. So executive presence. So what we're going to start off with is building out a great profile. So this is, I would say, is the foundation. This is the basis. If you don't know where to start with building out a compelling and engaging profile. So you want to craft a summary that captures both personality and expertise. You want to include your relevant experience and interests. You want to feature interesting and engaging content, like maybe it's videos or articles that you've done. And then check communication preferences as well. So start off with a good profile. If you don't know what a good profile looks like, I would say have a look on LinkedIn and see good profile. That's the first thing that I did. I looked at some profiles that I thought were good. I thought, oh, actually, I can copy this. I can, when I say copy, just use that as inspiration to build out your own profile. And that's one of the big ways where I got reasons why I got a job at LinkedIn. It's because I had a really strong profile. Enable creator mode. So creator mode, I would say, is one step further, where you can see who's following you and stuff like that. We're not sending this out to everyone, but if you've got the ability, you'll see on your LinkedIn, it will say creator mode and you can switch it on. I think there's a minimum amount of followers that you need to have, but this is super helpful when you're doing stuff like creating content. And what we're going to talk about later is how to walk, run, crawl, walk and run. So I'll talk about creator mode in that context as well. And then publishing. So one thing that I was talking about earlier with Yvonne is quality over quantity. So when you're posting, actually what you want is you want quality engagement rather than quantity. So rather than focusing on how many likes am I getting, focus on like what's the average number of comments that I'm getting on a post? What's the word count per comment? Some of that qualitative feedback, because that's when you know that your followers are engaged. I remember on Instagram, there was a big thinking of like with influencers, do I want to get an influencer that's got 1 million followers, but 0.1% of them are engaged? Or do I want an influencer with 10,000 followers and 90% of them engaged? You actually want the second one. So you don't want the person who's got 1 million followers, but no one's really engaged. You want the person who's got less followers, but the followers that they do have are quality. They're the people who comment. And that's because you're putting quality out there. So it's not just about spamming stuff out there into the feed. It's about thinking, am I really delivering value? And you can see that by the amount of people that comment, average word count. And then some of that secondary KPIs are the amount of views, likes, shares, percentage of follower growth. But if you prioritize quality, the quantity will come. And there are many ways to create content on LinkedIn. So short form text posts, that's a great way for real-time thoughts and sharp insights around words or wisdom. You can share documents. That's a great way to share downloadable content. So if you've got a PDF that you think this is super interesting to my community, you can share that. You can create videos or share videos, and that can be dynamic content formats for people who prefer watching rather than reading. You can do polls. So polls are pretty popular now. You might take a perspective, how many people think Elon Musk taking over Twitter is a good thing? Yes or no? Think of something that you think is going to resonate with your audience and create a poll. And then it could be creating articles or newsletters. So for people who like to write, you can share articles and more substantive thoughts on deeper topics as well. So again, Doug McMillan, this is the CEO of Walmart, and it showcases some photos and different types of posts that he's done as well. Lisa DeLuca, Director of Product Management at Domains. This is more of like a long form blog post. So if you're someone who likes to write, don't be afraid to put a blog post on LinkedIn. It's a great way to build your follower network. Robert Herjavec, I probably pronounced that wrong, but he's the CEO and founder of Herjavec Group. Again, he's got a number of different things. So he's got a newsletter, he's got some kind of more visual posts, and then he's also got blog posts as well. So you can subscribe to his newsletter. He does that on a bi-weekly basis. And when I go back to crawl, I'm going to go and talk about crawl, walk, run. You don't have to be doing blogs. I know people are time poor. If you're thinking, oh wow, if I need to be writing a blog once a week, you don't, right? So there's different things that you can do. I'm going to go into that in a minute. But depending on where you're at, there's a number of different tools that you can use. The CEO at The Atlantic, again, he uses a lot of kind of video, rich media, so like photos and good quality film to build out his thing as well. So digital citizenship. So building out a strong community. So you want to follow the relevant industry hashtags. Sometimes it's not just about posting, it's about engaging with people in the community. So following the right hashtags, that's a good way to stay top of mind and real time in those different conversations. How can you help shape the conversation in the industry? So offering a forward thinking point of view. And then check out LinkedIn top voices. So on LinkedIn, on the platform, have a look at what's trending, what people are talking about, news, all that good stuff. And then commenting. So some people think building out a follower base is all about posting. Not not necessarily. It's about commenting. So having a look at something that's trending in a place that you want to be, and putting a really substantive comment in there. Not a comment like "great," a substantive comment that adds value can be a really good way of building out your follower base as well. I know a lot of the influencers that I follow that are successful, they're great at doing this. They're looking at some of the people who are talking about the similar types of things, and then they comment, and they really add a top quality, valuable comment, and then that starts a dialogue as well. And then content curation. So it's seeing stuff that you think is interesting and curating that content. Again, you don't always have to be producing content. You could be looking and say, actually, I'm going to repost this because I think it's really interesting. And then having a point of view. So share your point of view around that particular content. And then you can start another dialogue based on not something that you created, but something that someone else has created. And you might put your own spin on it. You might put your own perspective on it as well. So understanding editorial at LinkedIn. So if you're not looking at LinkedIn news, I think this is a really great place to start, because this is a great place to curate content. So you might take something that's trending on LinkedIn top voices, LinkedIn news, and say, actually, I'm going to have a point of view on this. I'm going to have a point of view on what's happening in Qatar. I'm going to have a point of view around, and you want to keep it, you don't want to just have a point of view around everything. You want to keep it on stuff that's relevant to you. But if you see something that's relevant to you, you think, actually, I'm going to repost this and then add a perspective around this. Is a really easy way to create content that's valuable, and also use LinkedIn as the platform, and use some of that momentum to anchor and push you forward as well. So make your plan. I've been talking a lot about this, and building your presence, it takes planning. It takes you getting out pen and paper, carving out a couple of hours and saying, actually, writing down all of these different things. What's my expertise? What's the things I'm passionate about? What's the community? So the people who are successful, they plan. So again, I've spoken about this before. So there's the crawl, walk, and run. If you might have listened to what I've said and you thought, Toby, I'm nowhere near that, right? I'm not going to be blogging every week. I'm not going to be reposting every week. You don't have to, right? You can just start somewhere, right? So you can start with the crawl and just establish your presence. And then, so the first thing to do, if you haven't completed your profile, just complete your profile, or just have another look at your profile and say, actually, can I make this a little bit better? Can I make this so that the foundation is set, so anyone who comes on my profile, it doesn't look like I haven't put any energy into it. My profile picture looks good. I've got my summary there. I've got all my relevant experience, so just start off with that. That's the foundation. You want to turn on, if you've got follow, you can turn on that option if you've got it. And then it's just to try and curate content. So follow LinkedIn top voices and just use that as a start. You don't even need to think about producing content. You think, follow this, let me follow it and add a point of view, add some perspectives around it. And then brainstorm the type of topics that you like to publish about in the next 6 months. You think about your passions, you think about your professional expertise, your industry trends, and the company vision and values. So that's your foundation. And if you do nothing from today, start with that foundation, having a good profile, putting some planning in place, and then think about not how I'm going to create content, but how I'm going to curate. So the content I'm going to follow, and then add a point of view around. That's a really good way to start. And you can build up a really strong following. I'm talking about 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people just doing those steps, just doing that. So LinkedIn's really, some people think you need to be doing X, Y, you don't. You just need to do the basics, the fundamentals, and do them well. Now, the second thing is to walk. If you're like, do you know what, I'm past that fundamental stage, I really want to. I really want to blow this up. I really want to start growing. So focus on the content persona and establish your white space. I've been talking about your white space. Really hone in on focusing on what type of person persona am I going to be, and then create an empathy map. So what I'll do after this, I'll speak to Yvonne and I'll share this deck with you all so you guys can have that. You can have a look at some of the questions and then think about, take a pen and paper and think about, am I answering these questions? Have I really thought about this when I'm developing the content? Establish a publishing cadence. And I think this is super important. It's knowing how often am I going to post and stick to it. You don't have to, if you're saying it's impossible for me to post every day, don't post every day. If you're saying it's impossible for me to post every week, don't post every week. If you're saying it's impossible for you to post every month, don't post every month. Just say, this is what I think is realistic. I'm going to post every 2 months, or I'm going to post every month, or I'm going to post every week, and stick to it. It's much more important than you stick to what you do rather than you post a little bit today and then a little bit the other day and a little bit. There's no consistency there, and then your followers are going to get frustrated. They don't know when something's coming. It's almost like Netflix. If you know something comes out every week, then you're fine with it. But if someone tells you something comes out every day and then it doesn't come out the next day, you're like, hold on a minute, this isn't what I signed up for. So really think about putting together a publishing cadence. And for some people, they publish 4 quality things a year, and that's great. So you don't have to be doing the most and doing it every single week. Just think about what's good for you, what works for you, and stick to it. And then experiment with different post formats. So think about the short form, then the long form articles, and then video as well. So don't just stick to one type of post. Think about video, think about photos, think about doing some blogs, think about doing the short form, think about curating as well. And share relevant content from within your network and add the perspectives. Again, so important to just curate and share, have a point of view. Now, if you're saying, look, I'm a LinkedIn expert, I've been doing this for a few years, I really want to be up there with the Gary Vaynerchuks and, so, okay, let's start running, right? So leading in thought leadership. So post consistently at least once a week, right? So that's one good place to start to really turbocharge your LinkedIn. So post consistently at least once a week. Establish an ideal content mix of more than one format. So you want to be doing a little bit of video, a little bit of blog, a little bit of long form, a little bit of short form, maybe a newsletter. All right. So you want to mix it up and participate in comment and threads. So again, like I've spoken about, commenting, super important. Maybe even using LinkedIn Live or LinkedIn Audio and doing your own events on LinkedIn, right? And building out your audiences in real time. And then sharing the company brand, having a personal POV around perspectives, and then integrating executive content with paid media campaigns as well. So maybe you're running advertising on LinkedIn. You want to put a little bit of budget around a post that you think it could do well. That, again, it's another way to turbocharge. But again, I would say this is for people who really want to run. They feel like they're past the crawl and walk stage. How can I really turbocharge my executive presence? So again, I've been talking for a long time. I'm going to skip through some of these things because I really want to make sure there's enough time for Q&A. Again, like I've said, I'm going to share the deck later because I want you guys to have the maximum amount of value from this. So I'm going to skip through certain things, but I'm going to double down on other things. So get various teams involved in executive presence strategies and maximize impact and align on narratives and priorities. This is really about if you've got a team within your business that can help you do this, great. An exec comms team, brand team, corporate comms team, they can help out with some of this type of thing as well. And then also there's different metrics to focus on. So there's the audience growth, there's content views, and there's profile views. So you can have a look and see how is my audience growing over time. You've got access to those metrics on LinkedIn. You can look at your content views and say, how many people are sharing the content, viewing the content. So you can see over time how you're growing. And then your profile views, how many people are coming to my profile every day, every week. That's why it's so important to have a profile that's built out so that you're maximizing those things. And then again, some more things to follow on, follower growth, page visits, and page update performance as well. So I'm gonna go through this part quite quickly because it's all focused on if you've got a big team behind you and can help out. So again, so it's engaging, recruiting the best talent, and then nurturing that talent, and then finding alignment between brand, executive, and leadership voices as well.